concept that it comes in cases of partitioning is we can go ahead and maintain our data easily. Now, what I said in purging. In purging, I mentioned that in cases of partition, when we are using a composite partition, that is, for example, a range and a list partition, the data is getting sorted properly. So if we are to find out what data is present on, let's say, 5th of November, that can be easily get when we have the partitions. Okay, so whenever we are partitioning a table, we are making sure that the data is sorted and it is kept in a representable manner. Now, the maintenance of the data is easier, and once the data is obsolete and it is no longer required, then we can simply drop that partition, which will release all the data for that particular partition. Now, when we are doing the partitioning, how we are doing the partitioning or the purging every month is, first we will take a backup of whatever table you want to do the partition. Next, we will drop those partitions, those earlier created partitions. We will create a new partition for our table and then accordingly rebuild the indexes. So when we are doing the partitions for our table and our tables are termed as the partition table, the indexes present on these tables will be termed as our partition indexes. Okay, so these indexes will also be partitioned in the similar manner how the partitions has been done in case of a table. So if it is a composite partition in cases of a table, in cases of the index, it will also be a composite index also. Okay, so I hope the partition concept was entirely clear to you. I had stopped the recording. I did not start it by mistake. So I just started it and repeated all the concepts of the partition again. The next thing that comes, the next important and things that comes is about the export and import. So export and import is a manual triggering of the backing of the data from one database and importing of the data or migrating the data into another one. So there are different types of export and import. Don't worry, export import handout I have not given you. Just give me some time. Maybe tomorrow morning I'll share it with you. Okay. So now the things comes is about the what happens in export and import and what we can do. We can do almost everything in export and import. Or entire database we can migrate in export and import. We can do a schema export and import. We can do a table export and import. We can do a table space export and import. We can do metadata export and import, views export and import, data only with export and import. We can do all these things. And apart from this, we can export a selective data from a table and import it into another table as well. Those things are possible using the export and import. Whenever we are running the export and import command, there are some commands that are going to be always constant present. First is a log file. Second is a dump file. Third is the parallel value. And that parallel value will define how many number of parallel servers will be working in the background to make sure that our export and import worker is coming fine. In an ideal database server, we keep it as 4. Or if the database is large, we keep it as 8. When the table is very large, let's say there is a 30 TB table, or let's say there is a 20 or 40 TB table, we keep the parallelism as 16 also. That is also possible. So when we keep the parallelism as 16, and we have kept that, whenever we are increasing the parallelism, we need to make sure that our dump file is written as star mark. That is, let's say Mihisa is the table name. So I want to create the log file name as mihisa.log. But when I am going to create the dump file, I will be creating mihisa_star.dump. It means if the Mihisa table is of 30 TB and we have given the parallel 16, there are 16 different dump files that will be created. And when we put the dump files like this, it becomes easier for us to export or import. Basically, this is I'm telling for export. It becomes easier for us to export or take the backup of the table easily. The next important concept that is going to come in the export and import is the compression. Now, whenever we might have the file systems, our file systems identically are not going to have 40 TB of space to capture the entire 40 TB of data. Okay. So what we will be doing is we will be using the compression. So the 30 TB table, when we are going to use the compression, the entire table will be compressed to some 3 TB or 2 TB, like that we will be using. One more important thing. Whenever they ask you that whether your backup is a compressed backup or not, always remember whatever backup we are going to take, all the backups will be compressed backups. Not a single backup will be not without compress. Otherwise, you will not find space in your mount point only to carry out your backups. Okay, so this is easier. So when it comes to the backup, like I said, when it comes to the export and import, these are the two important things. So there are other concepts, other parameters. Like let's say content is equal to, if you are giving a content parameter and we are telling content is equal to data only, then it is going to capture only the data. It will not capture the table space, everything and all. So whenever we are doing the export, what are the points we need to consider? We need to check for the mount point where the export is going to happen, and may need to make sure that the whatever is the size of the schema, table space, whatever you are going to take, or even the database, approx that much amount of space is present in the mount point or not, or even more than that. If the, for example, if your schema is of 10 TB, you can make sure that whatever mount point you are going to put your entire your directory, whatever directory you're going to put your export logs and your dump files, that directory must have at least 12 TB of space. It's a very general consideration. Okay, so when you are going to go to import, when you're importing the data, you need to make sure that your table spaces are present, your particular table space, what was present in that table, that similar table space is present, or the metadata of the table into which this data is to be imported, that table is present. So if those things are not present, your import will fail. Okay. So these are the different concepts of export and import. I will provide you the handout of export and import. I actually missed it out. The next concept that comes here, and the last concept which you will be discussing with me, is about your there are two concepts actually. The last concept is about the change data capture or the data replication. So in cases of Oracle, the data replication happens in two ways. Either you replicate the data in a similar Oracle environment, or you want to replicate the data into a different Oracle environment. This is one. The second part is you want to replicate the data into a server from which can run as an alternative to your primary or production server. So that server into which you're replicating your or cloning your entire primary server is known as your standby server. Okay. So when it comes to the standby server, we cannot do any kind of insert update on the standby server. The standby server will always be, we can do the select command to make sure that the standby server is running properly. Okay, so when it comes to the standby server, it means that the database is getting copied into that particular server, so that in case if the primary database is getting crashed, or it is getting corrupted, or it is getting hacked, or it is getting completely blocked, we will be having a separate database with us. We will be having a secondary database with us to make sure that our production support is not gone. It is not damaged. So when it comes to the standby server is the exact copy of your primary server. We generally, in cases of higher banks, we make these standby servers. We make whatever is the standby servers, we make them run the backups in the standby. We don't run the backups in the primary to avoid any kind of issue with the primary database. Okay, so this is how we are going to configure our standby database. Now, this particular process or this particular method in which we are cloning our primary database to a standby database, and we are making sure that we have a clone of our primary database in case our primary database is going to crash, is known as disaster recovery or the DR drill. So in the DR drill, what does the companies does is they switch over. That is, they make the primary as the standby and they make the standby as the primary. So this is something they are going to do. And why are they going to do all these things is just only to make sure that the in case of any this drill is done such that in case of any issue is happening, we can actually deal with our secondary server while our primary server is brought back to service. So this is all about the data replication using the data guard. Now, when I say data replication using the data guard means in the standby server, there is a third party app known as the DG broker or the DG. This DG broker acts as a replicating agent, which is a third party's app, which is going to interfere with your primary server, is going to get involved with your primary server and replicate your primary server back and forth into the standby, so that both the primary and standby servers are in sync. So in case there is any difference in the sync due to the communication issue, we get a general concept known as the gap. So it is a very frequent term which we get. Whenever any database is facing slowness, we first check whether there is any kind of gap issue or not. If there is no gap issue, that is okay. Now this gap issue can be due to intermittent network connections, due to some update, insert, query, anything is happening. So in that case, the primary and the standby won't be in the sync. So when it comes to without the use of DGMGR, the gap refers to how many of the archive logs has been copied from the primary to the standby and it has been applied in the standby. So that gap will increase or decrease, but it should always be zero. So arbitrary network issue also can lead rise to that amount of gap. So this is all about the gap and the standby database. The last concept we are going to read today is about the golden gate. So what is the golden gate? So golden gate is basically a gate through which, just give me 1 minute. Let me have some water. Misa, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. So like if you have worked with Oracle, have you worked before on this, that standby database?
Yeah, standby. You mean the primary and the standby database?
Yes, yes.
Yes, a little bit. Yes.
Perfect. Then you must have understood today's concept, whatever I said you about now about gap and primary and standby and DR recovery as well. Am I correct?
Yes.
Perfect. So the only last concept which is left about today, and after that we will end our class, is about the golden gate. Okay, because that's the only concept left out so that you can read.
I don't know much about Golden Gate.
Don't worry, I have given the required whatever I think, whatever you all everything is given in the day 3 handout. Mihisa, I
Okay,
have
I
sent
have
you
it
the
up
email
right.
already. Yeah.
Yes, I received it.
Yes.
I see it right here. It's a real-time data replication, transformation, and streaming tool.
Okay. I will
Designed-
simplify the golden gate for you.
All right, that sounds good.
Okay. So you have
Yes.
known about the data guard, right? So what does the data guard does? It replicates the data into Oracle system. With the help of the golden gate, we can replicate the data into another server, which might be of Oracle or which might not be of Oracle. So both the cases it is possible. Okay. So the server might be of Oracle. The server might not be of Oracle. So in either way, you can manage it. So let's say we are telling that the server is of Oracle database. Okay, fine. So we can do the replication using the data card. But if the server is a non-Oracle database, let's say a Hadoop database, a MySQL database, a MS SQL database, then to that also it can be copied with the help of the golden gate. So the golden gate ensures that there is a heterogeneous service. Now this copying can be of 3 types. Unidirectional copy. Okay, So what it can be, that is the copy can be made from the target to the source database, that is from the Oracle to the non-Oracle database only. Bidirectional. So there are different four types actually. Bidirectional. Bidirectional copy means the copy can be done from the source database into the target database and the vice versa. And when it comes to the other two types of one, it means from one target database, the copy can be done to two or more different non-Oracle or Oracle source databases. Or let's say the opposite. Sorry, from one source database, it can be replicated to four different databases. From one source database to four different target, or two or three or four or five, maybe n number of target databases might be there, into which the data can be replicated. Similarly, from all those target databases, the data can be bought and it can be replicated into the source database. So these are the four types of replications that is possible in cases of the Golden Gate. So what are the key concepts of the Golden Gate include? It helps in a real-time data replication, okay, and it provides a high availability. It has a low impact on the normal functioning of the database, and the data transformation becomes easier. So the main important question about the Golden Gate comes is, they will ask you about the architecture. So in case of the architecture, so first will be a process that will be capturing the data, which is known as the capture or the extract process. Second will be a process that will be replicating the data. It will be capturing the data and then it will create a certain file that is known as our trail file. So those files will be created. Then there might be an optional process where those files will be transferred from the non-Oracle system to the source database to the target database. Okay, and then that is called pumping. That is optional because in the Golden Gate, normally the transfer of file can happen easily. But when it is done pump, okay, now, when it is saying that we might need to use a pump process, it means the database servers are a distance apart and they cannot be set via a particular network. So, intra-network transfer between the databases are not possible. In that case, over the network, we have to do the transfer and we have to set up this pump process accordingly. Okay. The next one is the delivery process. So the delivery or the replicate will be capturing the trail files and then will be doing the replication. And all these will be managed by our manager, who is going to manage the Golden Gate processes on the each system. So what is the use cases of this? Is the only thing about the Golden Gate which you need to understand. Okay, now there is one more concept of supplement logging. So supplement logging means whenever we are going to use the Golden Gate, it is simple actually. Whenever I am going to use the Golden Gate will have a other user, correct, or the user or the credentials. So what happens is, when the data replication we are going to do as a from a Golden Gate, we are going to create an empty schema in the target database. And then by logging through another user, we will extract the trail files and put it into the new schema which we have created. Okay, so this is what this is what supplement logging means. Okay, so this is all, the entire process is being already shared over the team, and there are some important concepts about the networking. So let's say if they might ask you that show me a case where due to some certain network impact, you are a Oracle database engineer. Show me a case where due to a certain impact, your database had not functioned properly. So network impact. When it comes to the network impact, first what you have to do is you have to check for whether the system is pinging or not, or whether you are able to do the remote connection. That is, you need to connect using the service connection. Then you check for the latency or in the alert log. In the network directory, there will be a log. In those logs, you need to check about the network related errors. Then you need to resolve it. The next thing that will come in cases of network is DNS configuration. So you need to see whether it is configured for you to access to that particular, whether your service is properly configured or not. Okay, I have completed this. Okay, this standby database. Okay, this standby databases and all I have completed. So the protocols, what kind of protocols we are using, what kind of dedicated server process we are going to use. So these are the different networking concepts. And to be honest, if since as per your resume, they are going to ask you a bit about networking because you have done the automation. Okay, so they will ask you how if the automation is failing with respect to the network, how you are going to deal it. So that might be an answer you must be having, because I don't have much knowledge on the automation part. I actually don't have much knowledge on the automation part. Okay, so you can cover that one on your own. That won't be an issue. But they, on the basis of automation, they might ask how to configure the networking, how to configure what kind of protocols are running. So how automation will make sure that all the protocols that are running are safe and has not expired. So there might be a number of such questions, but it depends upon the interviewer what he is asking. But these are some of the concepts which you need to learn and make sure you are okay with it. The next thing comes to the Linux. So when it comes to the Linux level or the operating system level configuration, you should know the following parameters like df-h, ls-ltr, ls-lrt, ls-lrth. Okay, df-h dot, df-h. Then what are the file systems? How to do the mounting of the file system? How to create a directory? How to change the ownership of different files and different directories and different directory groups. Okay, so these are the different things that you need to put it in the Linux. In Linux, they might also ask you about the kernel level configurations. I have provided the interview questions already on that. Kernel level configurations, what are the different kernel level parameters which you need to set so that your database can work efficiently. Then what is your root, which files are present in the root, which files you need to do clearance. Now in the database they will ask you, okay, now you have to go to the root and provide the trc and the trm file or the network file, whatever Oracle is asking. How will you go and provide them? So you need to be aware of that. Okay, in the root all these directories will be present. We'll follow the Oracle's guidelines and get it from those directories, the diagnostic tools. Okay, so these are the different things that are going to come with your networking and your Linux concept. So this much is the concept as a whole. In short, in the last two, whatever we read, on this the questions will be asked to. All the concepts I have covered. I have not left out any concept. Okay, only the notes I have to give you for export input and interview questions on export input, that I will provide you tomorrow, or maybe by Monday morning or Tuesday late night I'll provide it to you. Don't worry about it. Okay.
Did
Any
you wanted
questions
me
from?
to?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, please go ahead.
I was gonna ask if you needed me to work on those interview questions, and so that on we are meeting on Tuesday.
See, you work on those interview questions, don't by heart them. Just remember how they are answering and what kind of questions can be asked to them so that you are
Right,
prepared to answer. Okay, to
right,
be
yeah.
honest, these all things require immense amount of studies. You cannot cover it within this. There you need batches for this. But since you have it a very short period of time, so I just provided you everything in a nutshell. Okay, no extra dramas, nothing. Only to the point answers I have provided you. Go through that,
So,
and I'm sure if you are clear with the concepts, you can clear the interview. There won't be any issue. Okay.
what I was gonna okay. So the on Wednesday there will be this will be my first time talking to them. It's like a pre-screening call. and
Yeah.
then they will decide whether they want to go forward with me. So yesterday in our group, I sent a screenshot of what they were saying it's just a quick phone call so that they can get to know about me, and then I guess they will go from there if they want to move forward or not. So I
Okay,
know,
we'll
I
see
mean,
post Wednesday.
say that one more time.
We will see what happens post Wednesday. Okay, but just
Okay.
be prepared with the concepts. We'll meet on Tuesday. Okay, we'll meet on
Yes.
Tuesday, and then I will see what if you have any doubts on Tuesday. You have my email ID with you. Just reply to me back on the same email ID.